Welcome to Mind Your Mental Health Channel's third episode. So far we have done 2 episodes. First episode we discussed and introduced about the channel, what is the purpose and who is doing it. And the second episode we introduced the concept of mind. And I'm going to continue in this episode about the concept of mind. I'm going to elaborate further about mind. 2 questions which come to my mind is, what is mind and where is it? What is mind? There are any number of definitions available, hundreds of definitions probably. Definitions range from ancient time definitions by philosophers, recent time definitions by researchers, psychiatrists, psychologists, and WHO, World Health Organization, and APA, American Psychiatric Association. There are a number of definitions. I'm not going to give you a textbook definition now. Instead of that, I will take you through certain aspects of the mind, and in the end, we'll look at the definition. So that is what is mind. So we will look at the end of the episode. The second is, where is mind? That's again a very puzzling question for a general view. Where is mind? If I'm thinking, I'm pointing out to my head. I'm deeply thinking, don't disturb me now. If I talk about emotions, I point out to my heart. I'm feeling, I'm in love, or I feel sad. Everything we talk about the heart. So where is it? Is it in the head, or it is in the heart, or in all over the place? We will see where is the mind. Before going about the mind, I would like to dwell for a short period, briefly, into the body and the mind. Body and mind are dependent on each other. Mind cannot exist without a body. Body supports the mind. It has to be alive and functional to support the mind. Any problem in the mind can affect the body, or it can express through bodily symptoms. So they are inseparable, they are dependent on each other. So that's why we need to understand the body and then go on to the mind. All of you know, most of you know about the body. Now we have been learning it from our schools, from our people around us. Probably when you go to the doctor, we learn something. So we know about the body. Very briefly, what I'm going to do is briefly talk about body and then take you on to the mind. When we talk about body or bodily functions, like in a government, we have different departments: finance department, home department, now educational department, social service department. Like the different departments are there. If all the departments work well, they have appropriate policies and implementation procedures and processes, then the government will function fine. Similarly, if you take up a big company or establishment or a commercial organization, there are a number of departments. Production is one department, and marketing is another department, and sales is another department, HR is one more department, purchase is another department. We have different departments. Like that, body also has a different department. All these departments need to work together, function 100%, work together to maintain that body, healthy body. So let's see, what are these departments? In a scientific parlance, we call it as a system. There are different systems. First is a respiratory system. What it means is a respiration. It is a organs, it is a functions which manages respiration. We breathe in the air and breathe out the air. We have nostrils through which we draw the air, and through the tube, what we call trachea, it goes into the lung. There are 2 lungs, right and left. It's a very simple system where we draw the air and take it to the lungs. In the lungs, from the air, oxygen is taken out into the system. We need oxygen to live. Oxygen is the energy. Oxygen gives you everything what we are doing. So our body requires oxygen. So oxygen is drawn from that air and distributed all over the body. When oxygen goes to the body functions, it also produces another type of gas which is called carbon dioxide. That needs to be expelled, which can't remain in the body. So that's why we exhale or send the air out from the lung. So this transformation or transfer of gases takes place in the lung. It is one of the very important function. If you don't breathe for a certain time, you will not live. So that's how important it is. So that is the first department. So that gives you oxygen, takes out the unwanted gases from the body. Simply say that. The next system is what we call a circulatory system. As the name says, it circulates. What it circulates? It circulates blood. We have about 5 liters of blood in the body. Blood has its own component. It's a very important fluid in the body. And it has to run through the body all the time. It keeps circulating. Now the blood from the legs should come to the heart, from the head should come to the heart, and then recycle again to the different parts of the body. So to do that, we have an excellent pump. What we call it is a heart. It's about the size of the fist, and it starts beating while we are in our mother's womb, and it beats till our last day. And in a minute, it beats about 70 to 80 times. Imagine how many beats are in an hour, in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. It beats so well and beats so nicely with rhythmically. And if you buy a motor for draining water or for our domestic purpose, the life of the motor is about 10 years, 15 years. Sometimes we'll have to maintain it, sometimes we'll have to service it. But heart, the nature or God has given us a heart which works for how many years? 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, some people 100 years without a flaw. That's such a very intricate organ we have. So heart takes care of keeping the blood flowing through our vessels. From the heart, number of vessels branch out in the body till the tip of our fingers. Everywhere there is an artery, and then which branches into small, minute blood vessels. And the heart takes a blood from the lung where we have taken the oxygen, and it distributes all over the body. And it brings back the carbon dioxide to exhale into the atmosphere or into the air. And not only the air, oxygen and carbon dioxide, it also carries nutrients, your minerals, your vitamins, everything is carried through the blood vessels or the circulatory system. That's why it is also a very important system. And if you don't get a circulation to the brain will die, because brain needs oxygen to survive. So it's a very simple system. One heart pumps the blood and it is taken to the body, different body, and returned to the lung again. And then the transformation of gases takes place. And as it goes via the stomach, and it takes some nutrients like that. So it's a kind of a transportation system what we have. So I'm putting it very simply. The next system what we have is digestive system. It's also called alimentary system. Digestive system, as the name says, is a system which digests our food. In addition to oxygen, we also need a lot of nutrients to maintain our body, to grow our body from our infant stage to the elderly stage. So for that, we need to take certain ingredients into our body. That is what the digestive system. It starts with the mouth, ends in the anus. Through the mouth, lips, denture, teeth, and then the tongue and the throat, and then what we call esophagus, the fruit pipe. All this helps in taking the food, munching it, and then making it kind of a more palatable, and then pushing it down the throat into the food tube, what we call esophagus, and then the food goes into the stomach. Stomach is a reservoir. That's where the food goes and stays for some time. During that stay, a lot of chemicals, now gastric acid, chemicals join the food, and then it churned, and then by a process, the nutrient from the food is taken out, goes to the blood system. Remember, we have a circulatory system which takes everything. It's a transport system. So the food ingredients, vitamins, minerals, protein, everything, whatever the carbohydrate, everything is extracted from the food and then goes into the blood so that it can be distributed all over the body. End of that process, it might take few hours. End of that process, what is left after drawing out all the nutrients, everything, whatever is left out, it travels through small intestine, large intestine, and then comes out as a waste. So waste disposal system. So we have food intake system, food digestive system, and waste disposal system. Among all these things, there is one more system which is very, very important system. This system is called central nervous system. Central nervous system is nothing but brain and its accompanying parts. Brain is an energy center. It's a controlling center, it's everything. Without brain, nothing happens in the body. Brain structures are, it's a complex, but we can put it very simply. It has a brain and what we call brain stem. Then it has a spinal cord which run down till end of our vertebrae, and then through which thousands of nerves branch out and go all over the body. It is like a wiring. If you take up an electrical system in our house, electricity is generated somewhere. It is brought to our house through cable, and then it enters the house, and in the junction box, we wire our house, and then we connect it to the main cable, which enters the house. And the power comes through that cable, runs into the house. When you put a switch on, the power comes through the main cable, runs through our wiring system, goes to the particular light, and when you put a switch on, the light wakens. So that is the power which is transmitted through the wires and then goes into the bulb or fan or air conditioner, whatever we have, or heating system. So similarly, we have brain and brain stem, and then nervous, spinal cord, a thick nerve which runs through our backbone, and from the nerve, spinal cord, number of nerves branch out and go all over the body. Suppose brain gives the command, Soundararajan, lift your right arm. That command comes from there. That has to be carried through the energy, through impulses, electrical impulses. So brain gives that command and it is analyzed and then passed on to the neck muscle or spinal cord. And from spinal cord, there is a nerve branching out to my hand, to this part of the hand. So arm. So what happened? The command comes through the brain, impulses go down the spinal cord, then to the nerve, which supplies to the muscle around my upper arm, and then it contracts the muscle and then I lift my hand. So that is one of the functions of the brain. So this is what we call it voluntarily, because I'm thinking I need to lift my hand, I'm lifting my hand. I might think I don't want to lift the hand, I will not do that. So it is under my control. So all those activities, we walk, we take things, we do work, all these things are what we call voluntary system. There is also a system called involuntary actions, where we don't have any control over it. That is controlled by a particular part of the brain. Involuntary movements or involuntary actions are heartbeat. I can't control my heartbeat. I can't say from tomorrow you beat only 60 times, because it's all predetermined depending on our health and our habits, everything. It's all predetermined. So normal heart rate. So that is not in our control. Similarly, breathing is not in our control. I can't completely stop breathing. I can stop, but after a point, I bust out and start breathing again. So it is not in our control. These are all very important functions. That's why probably nature hasn't given to our control. So these functions are very essential for living a life. If I don't breathe for a certain period, I will die. If my heart doesn't beat for a certain period, we will die. If I don't breathe, oxygen doesn't come into my system. So it will lead to brain death or complete death. So that's why the nature is given voluntary and involuntary systems. Coming to the brain, we have bigger aspect of the brain, what is called cerebrum. Then we have a cerebellum, that is for balance, I think. Then we have a brain within the bigger brain, which is called limbic system. That is more for emotions. I will talk about it a little later in another episode in detail. So that is the emotional brain. Below that, we have a brainstem. That's where all these involuntary controlling centers are there. Our breathing, our heart rate, everything is there. Even gastric mobility, everything is there. So the nature has provided in a hierarchical way. Then comes the brainstem, continues on as a spinal cord. So this is the structure and functions of the brain. I'm giving you very briefly. So all these bodily functions and activities, everything depends on the brain. So that's why brain is placed in a very protective cover called skull, the bone. It's like a vault. It's not that easy to break that. So that's how brain is preserved in our body. Okay, I've said so many things about many bodily organs and functions, everything. And so where is this mind now? I said brain has involuntary functions like lifting your arm or walking or even smiling, all those things. It also has involuntary functions, I said, that is heartbeat, stomach, the gastric mobility, stomach mobility, and then your breathing. All those things are under the control of the brain, not under your control. I can't command it. Likewise, there are other few functions of the brain which we can't see, but we can perceive it. These functions are perception, thinking, emotions, behavior, and what we call as a primary mental functions, the foundation or fundamental mental functions, what we call memory, concentration, orientation, other things. There are 5 different functions of the brain. Perception, what we perceive. Thinking, what we think every day. All of us do that. Yeah. Then emotions, what we emote, what we express, what we receive, all those things. Then our behavior. So all these 3, your perception, your thinking and emotions leads on to behavior, how we behave. I'm happy, I behave in different way. I'm sad, I behave in different way. I'm angry, I behave in different way. All those depends on our thinking, our emotions and how we perceive. So these 5 functions together, what we call as a mind. When we say what is mind, mind is functions of a brain, perception, thought, emotions, behavior, and primary mental functions like memory, concentration, orientation. All these together constitute mind. So if you want a definition of mind, I said I'm going to do it at the end of the episode. Definition of mind is a process or a system which involves perception of a human being, thinking of a human being, thought or thinking, emotions of a human being, and all 3 leading to behavior of a human being. And to achieve all these things, there is another fundamental function, what we call primary mental function, because it is the primary on which the secondary functions sit on it. So these five together, we call it as a mind. I used to give an example for my students and trainees when I talk about mind. A simple example is, we have a fan in our room. It's quite sultry, warm here. I want to switch on the fan. I switch on the fan. From the fan, I get a nice breeze. Oh, I love it. I enjoy the breeze. So fan is like a brain. If you ask me where does the breeze come from, I'll tell them that is a fan. See the blades are rotating, it produces breeze. So physically I can point out that is what the brain, I can physically say this is the brain from which the mind comes. But if a student asks me where is the breeze, where I can see breeze, I can say you can't see breeze. We can only infer it, we can only perceive it. I see the paper moving, then I say that is because of the breeze. I can feel the breeze now, so nice in a hot summer day. It's so nice, I perceive the breeze. Similarly, brain is a substrate or is an organ which is primarily involved in mind. And what it produces, the functions of that mind are what I said, five: perception, thinking, emotion, behavior, and the primary mental function. All these things, we can perceive it, but we can't see it. We can infer it, certain movement, certain behavior. I see a very angry man gesticulating and talking in a very loud voice, then I can infer that person is angry. I see a person looking dull, crying and looking down and not communicating that well, then I can infer the person is depressed. That is part of the mind. So to sum it up, mind and body are interdependent. One cannot function without the other. And mind is something very abstract. You can't point out in a body and say this is mind, this is not mind. Predominantly, mind is housed in the brain. Certain important functions of the brain constitute the mind. So, mind is a complex phenomenon. It's not that easy to understand. That's why from the days of philosophers, I'm talking about centuries ago, from the current day, we are still researching on mind. There are huge projects from the US and Europe and other places where we are trying to understand what is brain, what is mind. Well, still we are searching. But what we understand, we have come a long way in the past 50, 60 or 100 to 50 to 100 years, we have come a long way. Our understanding of the brain has increased much more. But we haven't reached the end of it. We haven't fully understood it. So there might be surprises, we wouldn't know. Probably the future AI will unravel some of the aspects of the mind. So what we are going to do next few episodes is, I said 5 aspects of the brain, 5 functions of the brain. That 5 functions, we take one function each episode. Next episode, we'll talk about perception. Perception aspect of the mind, how we perceive what happens, all those things. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your patience and listening. And we will see you in the next episode on perception. Thank you.